Hey, this is Ryan from 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar podcast. Today, I'm showing you the Ibanez TSA15H. It's a tiny little tube amp. It runs on 15 or 5 watts of power. It's a little 3-knobber over here. That's the amp section. Then you have a built-in tube screamer. And when these first came out, I saw them in stores probably about a decade ago or so, and I kind of scoffed at them. It's like, who would want an amp with a tube screamer built into it permanently? It just seems silly to me because, everyone's got different versions of tube screamers that they like, and, they swap them in and out, and they're always experimenting with them. And then, a decade later, this thing pops up on Craigslist, and I had a completely different thought pop in my head, a realization, I guess you could call it, an epiphany. If they designed this thing to take a tube screamer well, like indefinitely, like it's always going to have that tube screamer in there, then it's probably going to be a really great pedal platform that takes lots of other pedals well. And I should probably get one and try it out since I do so much playing with pedals and demoing with pedals these days. And so I went and scratched the itch. I got money from the ATM and I drove down to where it was and I bought it, which is, how Craigslist stories go. Anyways, I'm really happy with it. I've used it live once in a setting where the cab was mic'd and I had in-ears, and then I've used it for pedal demo recording twice now, I think, and it's just performed fantastically both times, or all 3 times, however many times it was. But I'm really impressed with it. I'm really happy with how it sounds and how it performs. And let's just go through kind of its basic settings. And I'll give an overview of it, and then in later videos, I'll show how it handles pedals. I'll show how it sounds with different speakers and things like that. So here we go. Here it is on a setting that I would use normally with it. I think that sounds pretty good. I'll do some tweaking of the knobs here just so you can kind of hear the range of the EQ. Here it is with the treble all the way down and the bass all the way up. It seems like it has a really nice tight bass character to me. Like the low end is just real tight and punchy. Doesn't feel like it's flubbing the speaker at all. Here it is with the reverse, bass all the way down, treble all the way up. This is going to be bright. Lots of treble on tap with this amp. I typically run the treble down around 11 o'clock, 10:30, something like that, and then put the bass wherever I need it to be to fit my needs. So I'll kind of put it up like that. Let's try just diming the volume and see what kind of breakup we get. Again, this is on the 15 watt setting, so this is the max power for it. You hear that it's a very clean amp, even turned all the way up. There's a little bit of dirt there, and the secret here is that depending on what pickups you're using or what pedals you're using, it just sits right before the edge of breakup, and you can really easily push this thing into tube breakup. If I was using like a hot humbucker right now, this thing would just be gritty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw on the boost switch. I think that was a boost switch. And then I'm going to turn up the EQ a little bit, and we'll see if we can get this thing screaming a little bit. hear that there is starting to push into this like compressed, harmonic, crispy kind of overdrive, but still it's not all the way pushed in. If I was hitting this thing with a boost or a hot pedal or hot pickups, it would be screaming a lot harder for sure. But I really like this thing for the fact that it doesn't push into tube distortion really easily. Like my Princeton reverb, which I typically use for pedal demos all the time, you get it above 4 or 5 and it starts getting gritty really quick. There's no more volume on tap, it just turns into dirt. This thing is volume control all the way up the knob, which makes it a really smooth knob to operate. You can really find, those little micro settings, like if you just need to bump a little bit. It's so easy with this amp. It's so easy to make those kind of adjustments. I'll turn off the boost here. Find a more normal setting. And let's explore the Tube Screamer a little bit. Like I said earlier, I'm not really one to use Tube Screamers full time, and I tend to like to swap pedals in and out, but it's here, so might as well show it off. Just got everything set to noon right now, so we'll start there. It sounds like a Tube Screamer, that's for sure. It sounds like a pretty decent Tube Screamer too. Kind of reminds me of, like a modded TS9 kind of sound. So let's try cranking the gain and putting more treble in there and then boosting the volume. And let's see how that sounds. I'm just screwing around here. Not my best ever playing today, but that's not really the point. That sounds hot. I really like the way that sounds, and it's pushing the preamp section real nice, real solid compressed tube sounds happening here. I'm a big fan of what's happening for sure. Let's try a more conservative setting. Most people run Tube Screamers pretty low, so we'll do that. Maybe a little brighter, a little louder. Let's even go lower. Sounds great. Let's try that boost switch. The boost is really well dialed in. Just a little bit of extra volume on there, a little bit extra presence, it seems like on the low mids. Just if you needed to jump out of the mix a little bit for a lead, it's there. If you want to push that tube preamp a little bit more for a little bit more dirt, it's there. This is a really well designed, really well balanced amp. The Tube Screamer actually kind of makes sense in it because the amp section is designed for a pedal to hit it. I have no complaints with this amp, and I think I'm going to end up having this amp around for a really long time. I'm really happy with it. In future videos, I think I'm going to explore swapping speakers. I'm going to explore how it takes pedals, different kinds of dirt pedals and fuzzes and delays and reverbs and whatnot. There is a send and return effects loop back here, and I suspect that it's only an effects loop to get you on the other side of the Tube Screamer here so that you're not pushing into a Tube Screamer. I don't think it's an effects loop for the actual amp and preamp section. So we'll experiment with that and see if we can figure out the answers. But thanks for watching. I'm hoping to get a lot more content out of this thing and share a lot more information about it. Later.